Welcome to IMCS MasterClass. In this edition, how do you get your visa? Who better to tell us than the CEO of Safe Life Travel Consult? He is very passionate about his faith and religious tourism. He has served as a youth leader from the parish to the national level in Ghana. He is an alumnus of the University of Ghana. He studied for a bachelor's in statistics and computer science. He also has a Master of Business Administration. Ladies and gentlemen, grab your pens and your notepad.
Hello, IMCS Pax Romana, Africa. I'm Charles Mark Odoi, and I'm the CEO for Safe Life Experience Consult. So, a visa is basically a permit that is given to you to enter into a country. It also gives you the period that you're supposed to stay in the country, and it comes with other rules, that guides the visa. So Ghana has some agreement with some countries where you would get a visa on arrival. So, it's basically not so difficult. You get to the country, with some you need to show that you have paid for the hotel you are going to use. And then, we are just granted entry for a specific time. The other countries that you also need to apply in terms of doing an e-visa, and then it is granted to you before you can then travel to the country. There are others that you need the visa before you would travel to these countries. So it depends on where you are going to. But generally, with the places that a lot of Ghanaians dream to visit, it's very difficult to get the visas. First and foremost, you need to be travel worthy. And for me, basically, what I always tell anybody who wants to travel or anyone who calls me is that I ask first and foremost what you are doing. What you are doing in terms of what work you are doing. Because that's going to be very key for the consular officer to determine whether he or she would grant you the visa. Because, of course, they don't want you to go and overstay. And what's going to be that guarantee that consular officer is going to get to ensure himself or herself that you would come back is basically what you are doing. So if you do not have a secured job, that is one of the areas that they look at. If you don't have a very secure job, it becomes very difficult for them to grant you the visa. It means that you are not too travel worthy. It will be difficult for him or her to determine whether you would come back. So, that's one of the criteria in terms of you being granted a visa. But of course, there are other things that they look out for. You need to have a reservation for your accommodation, especially when you're applying for a Schengen visa. You need to have your insurance ready. You need to have also a passport. If you don't have a passport, then basically, I do not know why you would want to go and apply for a visa. And your passport also needs to be valid. I always tell people that to be on the safer side, look, try and let your passport be about 6 months to the expiry date. But to be on the very safe side, it's important you have at least a year. Some countries would grant you the visa. Maybe they want to give you 2 years, or your passport is just 1 year. Maybe they'll just give you the 1 year because your passport is just 1 year. So I always tell people that try and let your passport be at least about 2 years or at least a year to the expiry date. So on the African continent, it's basically the same. Most consulates want to satisfy themselves, especially when you're coming from Africa, because you know that, a lot of illegal immigrants in these Western countries, a chunk of them come from Africa. So every consular is very careful, especially when you want to enter US, UK, Canada, Australia, the Schengen areas. Especially from Africa, as I initially said, it is very important that your social and economic ties are strong. And also try and have some travel experience. Don't just get up and push yourself into wanting to go to Europe, the US, Australia, Canada, when you basically do not have any traveling experience, and even your social and economic ties are a bit weak. So I always tell people, look, try and do even around you in terms of African countries. It is easier for you to enter some of these African countries. Of course, if you're going from Ghana to Kenya, I think it's visa on arrival. At least with ECOWAS countries, you really do not need a visa. So some of these countries are easy for you to enter. So I always tell people, try and do trips to these countries. Try and go to Dubai. I mean, trying to get a visa to Dubai is not that difficult. When you do such trips, and now you want to enter into mainstream Europe and some of these difficult countries, they see that you're not the type that really wants to go and then run away. So it's important on the African continent and also with the countries that are less difficult for you to enter, you try and do visits to these countries before you try and enter and what do you call it? The mainstream Europe and the US, UK, Australia, and other countries. So I always say that if you are going to apply to a particular embassy, make sure you do not have any kind of um, any kind of previous bad record with that embassy. Let's say, for instance, let me use myself. I travel to the Schengen area more often, and I go and overstay. I mean, more than 90 days. My next application, it may be difficult for me. Let's say with the US, I have a US visa. With my B1, B2 visa, I'm not supposed to stay more than 6 months in the US. I travel and I stay more than 6 months on my B1, B2 visa. On my next application, it may be grounds for refusal. So it is important that you do not have any kind of what do you call it, previous bad record with the country you want to enter. If you're a fresh person applying, I always say that if you do not know how to do it, try and get an expert to at least look at your documentation. Yes, it is okay. You go on the net, they're giving you what you require. I mean, it's not only putting those documents together. Try and get an expert to also look through, because your introductory letter alone could be grounds for them to refuse you. How it is couched. Let's say the dates are inconsistent. The date on your application form is different from your accommodation reservation you have made. Maybe you require what do you call it, an insurance, and the dates on the insurance fall outside your travel time. Your flight reservation possibly is required. Do you have it that falls within the dates that you want to travel? So the dates, for instance, should be consistent throughout. You have booked an accommodation, and the accommodation states that, I mean, this accommodation is for female, but you are a male applying. This could be grounds for them to refuse you. Even your bank statement, I think, is one of the things I've not mentioned. Your bank statement should be able to correspond to the period that has been given. So possibly the country requires a 6 month bank statement, then you provide a 3 month bank statement. I mean, it's grounds for them to say, but why are you hiding that you've produced only 3 months for us? So your statement is extremely important. Again, for those who have their own companies, we normally make the mistake of possibly presenting our company statement because we think there's a lot of money in it. But most embassies require you to also present your personal statement. So fine, the company could be sponsoring you. The company wants to show that they have money. But it is important that you also present your personal statement as part of the documentations that you are presenting to the embassy.